Took me a little bit of time to get this presentation done. Are we on Instagram, Michelle?
Yes.
Thank you. Hello, everyone in the world of wherever you guys are. Hope you're having a good weekend. Tomorrow's Monday. Facebook, YouTube, we have Periscope, Twitch, and we have Instagram. We're going to talk about. We are going to talk about not interferon. We're going to talk about. I'm mentioning Instagram. So let's start. I think we can see everyone, right? I hope everyone can see this here clearly. I think it should be good. So we'll wait until people join. We have people joining on Instagram. So welcome, everyone. We're going to have an interesting discussion today. I want to educate you. A lot of people really enjoyed the mRNA vaccine talk, and they wanted me to do more on science. You know, there's two kinds of talks I do. I talk about science issues, which really bridges the issues of truth and health, but also brings in the issues of freedom. And then I'll sometimes focus on the issues of politics, which really talks about the freedom aspects, which integrates truth and health. None of these things are separate. And when we talk about things about relating to science, it also integrates with freedom and health. So anyway, we have people from Texas, North Carolina, Kentucky. Where else do we have here? Great. Vegas. Good to have you. Fantastic. So one of the most important things we do in our educational sessions here is to really educate people on the need for a systems approach. And a systems approach is essential for us to win truth, freedom, and health. If you read the caption I wrote in the description, at least on Facebook and YouTube, one of the things I'm going to be really, I guess, getting a little more emphatic on is that anyone in 2021 who is talking about Republicans versus Democrats, you know, left versus right, or if you get into this pro versus anti stuff, more than likely you're caught in the theater that the establishment wants to be part of. Someone says this IFNSL. We'll talk about this. So today we're going to talk about the interferon system, but the reason we're going to talk about the interferon system is my goal is to arm you, weaponize you with education so you can start making better decisions for yourselves. You can start also starting to appreciate that there is complexity, but you can actually discern truth from complexity with science, engineering science to be specific, and that will help you. In this case, we're going to look at immunity. So there's all the stuff, vax, anti-vax, and we want to go beyond vax and anti-vax, which has always been my position on this from day one. It's not about vaccines or anti-vaccines, which is what the establishment wants you to get involved in, and they choose the player, so we all start fighting, and you give money to one side or the other side. The real issue here is to take a systems approach to really start understanding what are the components, what are the systems. Remember, for those of you who get involved and take the Foundations of Systems course, which I encourage everyone to do, you'll start understanding a systems approach really starts looking at the connections between the parts. And when you start understanding the connections, you can start getting to truth. But if you don't look at the connections and you don't look at the parts of a system, which are always being found in Science Evolves, new discoveries, you're never going to really get to the heart of it. You're going to be caught in this theater of left versus right, pro-vax, anti-vax, you know, Republican, Democrat. At the fundamental level, what we're going to realize is the goal when you take a systems approach is to boost our immunity. What can we do to strengthen immunity? At least in this case, when it comes to election voting systems, what we realize is that it's the computer algorithms are the real issue when you take a systems approach. It's not mail-in ballots or which the right talks about or voter suppression, what the left talks about. It's really the fact in 2021, we have the use of electronic systems, which can literally flip and switch votes. So we need to get rid of electronic voting systems. So like this, when we talk about masks, right? We talk about masks. The real issue is not pro or anti-masks. These are the cards all of you guys can download and I'll talk about it. The real issue is that the masks, when you take a scientific approach, actually have effects on your oral health. That's what it's really about. And as I'm putting here, I encourage all of you to go to vashiva.com/join and become a part of the a movement for truth, freedom, and health. You can join free as a member on site. Some people want to contribute and they say, Shiva, I want to contribute. What can I do? Well, you contribute. You can become a supporter of the site. You get access to the system and revolution. You get access to your body, your system. And those of you who want to make a commitment to become a truth, freedom, and health warrior, our goal is to have 50,000 people over the next year, all over the world, the United States, everywhere, because we need to take a systems approach. So before I start the interferon talk, I always like to play the video, which lets you know what the mission is and why I do this and why it's important to building a movement for truth, freedom, and health. So let's take a couple of minutes and watch this. We have allowed our country to be taken over from within, and the end goal is you will have a homogenized world where we will become slaves, because there is a condition among the elites that really thinks they're better than you, deep down inside them, that you don't deserve the freedoms you have. They don't. This reality is what people need to wake up to, and we need to all unite working people. There's only one movement that can do that, and that is the movement that we started creating here in Massachusetts, the movement for truth, freedom, and health. Look, I've been a student of politics since I was a 4-year-old kid, studying revolutionary movements, left wing, right wing. There's a physics, there's a nuclear science to destroying the establishment. To build a bridge, you need to understand Newton's equation. You need to understand the laws of gravity. You need to understand Poisson's ratio. There is a way to build a revolution, and that's why I put this together. My goal is to train an army of truth, freedom, and health leaders. We don't need followers like social media. We need leaders, but they need training, because the educational system does not teach them history, nothing. So in 3 hours, that's what I've started doing. That's the solution. We got to train people. First, with understanding what a system is. The second is understanding the interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. Freedom is the ability to move freely, communicate freely, right? Talk freely. Without freedom, you cannot convert ideas, hypothesis into truth, which is science. And without freedom, you can't really get to truth. And without truth, you make up fake problems and fake solutions, which means you destroy our health. And without health, which is the infrastructure of us and our body, you can't fight for freedom. Third concept is it has to be bottoms up. Working people, people who work uniting. And what the right wing has done is whenever you say working people unite, that must be communist. Meanwhile, they've let the Democrats run unions, which suppress workers. Completely corrupt. But when you look at the arc of American history, it's been when working people came up. We need to go local. Every solution I'm coming up with as a part of this movement, we're giving the science, which is the truth, and then we tell people what they can do on the ground. Like with election fraud, you don't need to wait for some lawyer. Our goal is to train people, Dave, to go local, to go local, to go local, fight locally. Forget lawyers, forget politicians, forget celebrities. You got to learn politics, and there is a science to it. They lock us down, we should be ready to shut them down. And the fourth part of this principle is a not so obvious establishment. So when you look at a system, there's always something that disturbs you from getting to your goal. Well, the biggest disturbance is a not so obvious establishment, which are those people who claim they're for you, on the left and the right. The Al Sharptons who tell black people I'm for you. The Tucker Carlsons. Do you think any true anti-establishment person will ever be on Fox or CNN? I don't think so. They both mislead working people back into the establishment. Without this solid understanding of political physics and theory, you're screwed. You're going to follow on the left wing, Bernie Sanders. Oh, he said something. Or Robert Kennedy. Scumbags. Or you're going to follow, some right-wing talk show host. They're not going to lead us to liberation. It's us. And that political physics, it's a nuclear science of change. Bottoms up. We have to organize to understand that there is people who talk a good game and then look at what they actually do, left and right. I'm sorry, Sean Hannity may say some good things, but I don't see the urgency in his voice to get something done, and it can only come when you weaponize yourself with the right knowledge. You need to be able to identify a rat. Christ didn't go after the Romans, right? It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who screwed him up. His own quote-unquote people. And that's where we're at. So these four concepts I've built into a curriculum. People can go to BASHIVA.com. And it's an educational program. We need to train people in political theory. You need to have physics. And I've created that curriculum. People need to get educated. We need to get educated fast. And within a half an hour, I can teach people. 2 years of MIT control systems, I teach people those concepts. Then I apply it, anyone can understand it. And then you say, oh, I got to build a bottoms-up movement. They have to get politically astute, and then they have to go locally and act, not sit there on social media. They have to act locally, defy locally, do civil obedience locally, but with knowledge on how to build a movement. The Senate campaign's expanded to the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health, and they can find it on V as in Victor, A, Shiva, VASHIVA.com, so people can sign in. They can get access to a bunch of videos. If they want to take a course and become a Truth, Freedom, and Health leader, I offer a full scholarship there. but we want people to make a commitment that they'll study, that they'll get certified, that they'll go do activities on the ground. So go to VA Shiva, Victory America Shiva, vashiva.com. Okay, everyone. So I hope that gives you where we're coming from. But the bottom line is, please go to vashiva.com. We have, I mean, it's explosively growing the number of people. And I'll go. So when you join the site, it's not just a site for education. We have the educational tools, lots and lots of videos. It's in our own data center. It's in our own infrastructure, which your contributions are supporting to build our own hardware, our own infrastructure, our own software. In addition to that infrastructure, we're also giving you communication tools. So as people join, so you don't get thrown off, we're building a community. There's the equivalent of Facebook. We're offering things like forums so you can communicate and connect with your like-minded people who want to be truth, freedom, and health warriors on the ground, because the only way we're going to win is to build a bottoms-up movement by being educated. And then we offer you other tools where you can get activated on the ground. So for example, there are cards like this that you can print, mass and oral health. One of the women who's going to come on, a truth, freedom, and health warrior in Anchorage, Alaska, is going to talk about how she used these cards. She educated people. Anchorage apparently wanted to pass a mask law, okay? And she got involved. She used our education, educated people as they were waiting outside in the cold. And she was very instrumental in defeating that law in Anchorage with science, with the elements of truth, freedom, and health. That's what we can do. It's about us going local. So today, let's jump right in and we're going to talk about the interferon system. The interferon system is really important to understand because it's going to give you the education so you can understand, first of all, what's good for your health, but you can expand your knowledge. And this content you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get it at Fauci. You're not going to get it from the CDC. You'd probably have to spend a lot of time going through, you'd have to go get a PhD at MIT to get. So the good news is I've organized that in such a way that all of you can learn that, okay? So that's the goal. We want to get educated or we're going to be enslaved. Education, as my great-grandfather said, is the ultimate way to freedom, is the ultimate way to better our lives. And as I mentioned, Buddha, the great enlightened Buddha, said that suffering always comes from ignorance. So we got to get out of this left-right, pro-vax, anti-vax, Republican, Democrat. That's where they want us to be. So let's go talk about interferon. So let me go to the share screen. And those of you on Instagram, I hope this is okay. We're actually sharing with you. Let me just zoom in for you guys so it's a little bit nicer for you. Okay. There we go. I hope that's better. And I think I can do this. Okay, there. Okay, so let's talk about the interferon system. So what is the interferon system? I'm going to share with you today. It's really the missing link for building immunity. And as I mentioned here, we need to take a systems approach. A systems approach is really the path to truth, freedom, and health. Let's start. So again, very quickly, some of you who are new, I just want to review with you. This is what happens when you get not only COVID-19 pathogenesis. Pathogenesis means a process that something occurs. So these little red circles here with the blue circles around with these little spikes, with a little green in there, that's a virus particle, okay? In this case, we're looking at COVID-19. The surface of that virus particle has spike proteins. And what happens is when this virus particle lands on one of your cells, what it's trying to do is it's trying to get into your cell and use its blueprint for replicating itself, which is that little green stuff. It's called the RNA. And then it replicates itself, reassembles itself, and it makes more of itself. So one comes in, more go out, okay? That's what it's trying to do. It's trying to heist your cellular machinery to make itself. That's what's going on. So just to walk you through this for review, the virus comes in, and on the surface of your cell are receptors. In this case, it's the ACE2 receptor specifically for COVID-19. The spike proteins intersects with the ACE2 receptor. It does a process called glycosylation, and voila, it gets in, okay? So once it gets in, what does it do? Well, it opens up its envelope here in some sense, and it releases its RNA. This RNA is a blueprint for it to replicate itself. So it uses the ribosomes, which are part of your own machinery. They're like your Xerox machines, or your ability where you can take the blueprint and it starts generating proteins, which actually help to reconstruct this entire thing. So that's the next step that occurs. So it's actually reconstructing itself, and it repackages itself. Quite amazing what nature is doing here. And then it gets out, right? So it came with a few, and a lot goes on. So that's the process. So virus comes in, as just a review, stuff happens here, the RNA replication takes place, and that's the pathogenesis. It reassembles itself and it escapes. Okay, so that's what goes on. So now let's talk about, given that, what is the purpose of a vaccine? Okay, and where does the science of that come from? So where does it? I'm going to make sure people here can zoom in a little bit, and they can see a little better here. So what is the purpose of a zoom over here, guys? Okay, I'm sorry here. Just want to make sure people can see here. Okay, so what's going on when we actually have a what goes on when we actually have a vaccine, right? So let's just review that before we get into the interferon system. So you understand the pathogenesis. The virus tries to get in, heist your own cellular machinery to replicate itself. So now let's go and discuss a little bit of what happens when you take a vaccine, and where does the origin of vaccines really come from, okay? So if you study this a little bit carefully, what you find out, something fascinating, is that the whole basis of vaccines, I mean, you can go back to traditional cultures. This is a process in Chinese culture where they would literally take the pus, the entire, let's say the sputum. Let's say someone had some viral infection. They would grab their mucus or their sputum. It sounds a little bit disgusting. They would save it, dry it, and they would shoot it up to someone's nose. And we'll realize why, because the nose area is where the innate immune system exists. And the goal was, you were inoculating someone. Again, you weren't giving the vaccine, but you were giving the whole virus and all the stuff that comes with it. In Africa, there was a methodology called variolation for smallpox in East Africa. And what they did here was they would literally make an incision in your arm, and then they would put the entire smallpox, virus particles, etc., right? And it was a way that you were inoculating people. This was another way that was done in the ancient world. In fact, an African slave was the one who was to bring this concept to the United States, and he actually helped Washington. This concept was used by Washington to inoculate, not vaccinate, because they knew there could be smallpox coming. So people had this concept of giving people the disease. So let me repeat that. People had this concept of giving people the disease. So this concept meant that you weren't afraid of the disease. You recognized that the immune system needed to see the access to the disease early. So it's called stress inoculation in system science. And you're stressing the system, and it gets resilience to build strong. Now, obviously, if someone had weak immune systems, some people died, but it wasn't everyone died. Most of the people in this example actually got inoculated, and one could argue was important to winning the Revolutionary War. And this technique, variolation, was brought to the United States by an African slave. Edward Jenner used the same concept when we had the beginning of quote unquote vaccines, but you made an incision, you gave people the cowpox. So how does this all work? Well, I'm going to share with you, as I've shared with you before. Let me go back here. I don't think I'm sharing here. So how does this work? Let me go back here. I think I missed a couple of slides here for people on outside. So what I was sharing here was this technique. This is a Chinese method. This was the African method. They would make an incision, give you the whole virus particles, everything. This was the slave who's brought the variolation technique to the United States, and that was what was used in the Revolutionary War to inoculate soldiers. And that really led to the work of Edward Jenner, which is really sort of the beginning of quote unquote vaccination. Okay. When we discuss vaccination, what we got to understand is that there's an interesting phenomenon going here in vaccination, and that's the following. Vaccination is based on a model, right, of the immune system. How does science work? We do lots and lots of experiments, and we try to figure out how nature is actually working. So the model of vaccination comes from the basis of a 1915. Okay, it comes from a base of a 1915, so almost over 100 years old, understanding of the immune system. Maybe on a good day, 60 years old. But fundamentally, it's a concept that your immune system has two really subsystems. So it's only based on a 2-subsystem model of the immune system. So let's look at what I mean by that. So if you look at that 2-subsystem model, that subsystem model says that you have the innate immune system and you have the adaptive immune system. So the innate immune system is that part of your immune system which is non-specific, which means it doesn't try to just take out a particular pathogen. It tries to take out everything. And then you also have, your first line of defense. It's in your throat, it's in your eyes, it's in your gut. It's a thing that your body gets exposed to first. And that's why if you see the guy shooting the stuff up the guy's nose, you're hitting the adaptive immune system. The innate immune system. The adaptive immune system is a specific part of your immune system where it releases specific antibodies and it develops memory. So the innate immune system has no memory, and the adaptive system has memory. And a way to look at it is, here's a pathogen. This is a 2-box model. You have the innate immune system. The pathogen comes in, hits the innate immune system, and it innervates the adaptive immune system to produce antibodies. This process I went over yesterday. I think some of you like me doing the chalk talk. I'll do that on paper. But essentially, the innate immune system tries to go gobble up, right? So here's a virus that tries to go gobble it up using, let's say, macrophages. And it's basically like a soldier fires a bomb, and the parts of the virus go everywhere. The surface proteins, for example, become what are known as the antigens. And then the adaptive immune system says, oh, that antigen, I have to create an antibody for. And through a process using B cells, it creates an antibody. And then that antibody, the next time it sees that virus, because it has cellular memory, will go stop it, okay? So when you look at this system here, right, this is why I keep saying it's based on a 2-box model understanding of the immune system. You have the innate and the adaptive. And the innate immune system, it's in your skin, it's in your it's in your cough reflex, it's in your monocytes. These are the different subsystems. It's in your mucosal layer, stomach acids, and these are the different cells that make it up: monocytes, macrophages, neutrophils, NK cells, dendritic cells. But these are the stuff that's in your non-specific. And your adaptive immune system includes T cells and B cells, and there's different types of T cells. But fundamentally, if you look at the innate and the adaptive, and you look at this chart here, what you'll find as the innate immune system is sort of the immediate, adaptive lasts longer. And we'll see where the interferon system fits in here. Its features are it's primitive and broad. It tries to go after everything. The adaptive is highly specific. The regulation is either on and off. Here, it can increase its regulation. Potency, it's lower. The adaptive is higher. The kinetics, which means how fast this occurs very fast. And the interferon system sits between these two, as we'll see. The amplification, there is an amplification. The interferon system does help amplify. The duration is short. Here it's long. There is no memory. There is memory. It's always present. This is normally silent. It's unspecific. It's highly specific. So again, the nature of a vaccine is the reason vaccines come into play is the idea is I'm going to avoid the innate immune system, and I'm going to put a needle into your body, and that needle is going to deliver something, and the goal is to upregulate antibodies. Okay, so let me just be clear on that. The tactic of vaccination is we don't want people to be sneezing on each other, right? If you look at the variolation technique, they made an abrasion so your skin, got access to it, or in the case of the Chinese method where they're shooting up something, you're actually sharing the entire live virus, okay? Very different. It's inoculation, it's exposure versus taking a much more targeted approach where you're just going to avoid the innate system and you're going to go right into someone's bloodstream and you're going to send stuff there. But the goal of that, to be clear, is to upregulate antibodies, okay? So we have to think, well, if the pathogen came in here, there's a whole bunch of stuff that occurs here. We're only doing this, and this is correct. Is this correct? And that's why I keep saying this is what's called a reductionist approach. And I'll share with you more. Now, in the discoveries that I've done in my personal research and my scientific work, which I presented at the National Science Foundation, where I was invited to give the lecture, I shared a modern science of the immune system. And that modern science reveals something a little more profound, that is not as simple as this 2-box model. What we actually have is we have the let me just make sure people can see it here. We have the innate, the adaptive, but we also have the interferon system. And beyond that, we also have the microbiome and the virome. And I'm going to do a whole talk on the microbiome. And this microbiome literally talks to your brain. This is in your gut. This is in your brain. And it goes through the interferon system. And all of these systems are interconnected, by the way. And we'll give a whole talk this week on the microbiome. One of my friends who's a nurse said, can you do a talk on the microbiome? But what you see here is this is much more complicated. So we're going to focus on this today, the interferon system. And you're going to really leave with a deep understanding of the interferon system. Let me see how everyone's doing. Everyone doing all right? Everyone cool? All right. So we're going to understand what the interferon system is, okay? Good. So let's focus on the interferon system. The interferon system is something that I want to educate you on so you can maybe train other doctors, you can train other scientists, okay? Because it's not something that's broadly discussed in the media. Because what the punchline here is you're going to understand that the interferon system, which generates things called interferons, and there's various, and the interferons are different kinds of molecules. There are certain types of cytokines, which are messaging molecules. And these interferons are critical to boosting immunity. They're critical to modulating immunity. Okay, so let's jump right into understanding interferons. And by the way, my research work, my PhD work at MIT, and I do a lot of work on this, did a lot of work on interferons. So let's jump right into understanding interferons. What are they? Okay, so let's jump right in. So the IFN system is responsible and it established what's called transcription memory. What does that mean? The interferon system means that when you get hit with a virus, remember we talked about transcription, which is where your body, when it recognizes something, that your DNA transcribes different proteins. So the interferon response system is critical that it actually, when your body sees a virus, it'll actually transcribe at the DNA level proteins. And we're going to see that, okay? So just bear with me. And in fact, over 1,000 genes can be upregulated after initial stimulation. So think about that you get hit with a virus and your genetic system actually turns on. This is some latest research. And over 1,000 genes get turned on, and your body actually starts creating proteins that you need. So that single virus enables your body to create other proteins. And it really prepares the immune system for future attacks. So simply put, the interferon, so we're not talking about the innate, we're not talking about the adaptive, but when a virus comes into you, your body actually in some ways wakes up and it turns on a bunch of genes. This is why we call epigenetics, right? So as you get exposed, separate from the innate and the adaptive, your body turns on all these things called interferons. It turns on a bunch of genes, all right? And I'm gonna walk you through two of them today, actually interferon alpha and beta, okay? So what is the IFN system? Okay, there's type 1 interferons. There's various kinds of interferons, just various kinds of molecules. Simply put, there's a thing called type 1 interferons, and type 1 interferons include IFN alpha and IFN beta. And now you will find out, I'll do a talk maybe tomorrow, but there are certain nutrients, certain very powerful nutrients that make sure that your body upregulates interferons properly. What the virus is trying to do, the clever virus tries to knock down so your body doesn't create interferons. In fact, in the latest research that just came out a couple months ago, they found that lots of coronavirus patients were creating antibodies to interferons, okay? They were actually destroying interferons, which means there's something wrong either at the genetic level or at the epigenetic level. So interferons are very, very critical, but type 1 interferons, they're the ones that sit between all of this stuff sits between the innate and the adaptive, but they provide an early immune response against viruses, and they enhance the activities of macrophages, dendritic cells, and NK cells. So they really empower the innate system. That's one thing that type 1s do. And the type 2s stimulate anti-inflammatory response, right? So they make sure interferon type 2 is interferon gamma. That's what this little weird symbol is, means gamma in Greek. So it stimulates anti-inflammatory response. And interferon lambda, that's what this symbol means, orchestrate the innate and the adaptive mucosal immune responses. So you have type 1, type 2, type 3. So what you're seeing here, oops, I forgot to share this. So what you see here is that the type 1, type 2, type 3 interferons work together. The type 1 supports your innate, type 2 stimulates anti-inflammatory, and the type 3 orchestrates the innate and the adaptive mucosal immune response, right? Which is the stuff in the microbiome, etc. So it's quite amazing. The interferon is really the missing link. Type 1, type 2, and type 3. Today, we're going to focus on type 1 interferons. Now, this is one of the most critical diagrams I want everyone to understand, all right? So I'm going to just, I know you guys like me drawing it, but I'm going to walk you through this very carefully. So I'm going to do it through words first, and then we're going to walk through this diagram. This was the basis, again, of my PhD work. Very few people really understand the interferon system. So after you're done with this, you're going to get a really deep understanding at the molecular level. So let's look at it this way. You have a cell. Here's a cell. Say you have two cells, cell 1 and cell 2, okay? Cell 1, let's say cell 1 gets infected. Cell 1, when it gets infected, may want to signal cell 2 so to tell it, hey, I got infected over here, get ready, okay? So when cell 1, remember, cytokines are molecules that communicate between cells. Hormones are molecules that communicate across, organ systems. But cytokines are signaling molecules that are the telecommunication systems between, let's say, cells. So you have cell 1 here, which is about to get infected, or has gotten infected. And what it does, what nature has done is make sure that it communicates to another cell. This is where interferons come in. So we're going to walk through first cell 1. Remember, the cell gets infected, a virus lands on it, and it sticks its RNA into it. And what happens at that point is, in the interferon system, there's a series of processes we're going to walk through that the interferon system is turned on. And the interferon system, the first thing it does is it recognizes that virus has infected it. And then it's going to, through a series of chemical reactions, it's going to inspire or incite the DNA to upregulate a protein, which means, remember, transcription occurs at the DNA level. Transcription occurs, and the body actually generates interferon beta, okay? So the first step is virus comes in, and I'll walk you through this, and the body's going to create interferon beta, okay? So two cells, interferon beta can signal the cell itself. We call that an autocrine response, which means it's telling itself, or a paracrine response. It tells a neighboring cell. It says, hey, buddy, I've been infected, okay? So the interferon beta in step 2 lands on a receptor of the cell, either its own or another, and that excites the cell to make a protein called IRF7, okay? It's a different protein. Again, it turns on genes, and your protein makes IRF7. Why is that important? Okay, that's step 2. Well, when the virus comes again to infect this cell or another cell, IRF7, IRF, India, Robert, Frank 7, is used to excite the cell's machinery to create not only IFN beta, more of that, but IFN alpha. IFN beta and IFN alpha are like powerhouse machinery that go and take out the virus, okay? And then remember, you can't keep this going on too long, or you get the cytokine storm, too much interferons, so you have to shut it off. And the fourth part of it is a mechanism to turn it off, the control system, okay? Got it? So you have the first part, which creates interferon beta, which is a signaling molecule which tells all the other cells I've been invaded. Interferon beta goes and lands on the cells, and it says, hey, a virus is going to be coming, create IRF7. So when a virus does infect the other cells, not the first one, those cells not only create IFN beta, but they create IFN alpha, which serves to destroy the virus. Okay, so interferon is critical. So let's walk through the diagram. So I explain it in words. Let me see if everyone's cool with this. How are you guys doing on Instagram? Everyone okay? Okay, good. We are the new information warriors. Exactly, that's what you are. Okay. So let's go right here. So let's look at this diagram now. I'm going to walk you through this really carefully. And by the way, this diagram I'm going to walk you through, one of the leading toxicologists in the world, John Essigman, taught me this, and you're going to learn it now, okay? So you don't have to spend, a year in a, immunology course, and you're going to learn it here because I've been able to distill it in a quick way. So let's So what are you seeing here? So let's take it slowly. I want you to focus on this outer circle here. So let's take it step by step, is a wall of the cell, okay? I think I got to share this, okay? So this outer circle here, right, you're seeing here, so this line is the outer circle of the cell. The inner circle here is a nuclear wall where DNA is. So here's the outer circle, here's the inner circle, okay? So again, let me keep it simple. The outer circle is a wall of the cell. That's where the virus is going to come in. The inner circle is where all the DNA material is that can tell your cell to make proteins. Remember, what DNA does is under the right inspiration, it'll open up a piece of messenger RNA will come out that's called transcription, and it'll make a new protein, right? So you have the outer cell wall and the inner cell wall, okay? So here's the outer cell wall right here, and the inner cell wall. So let's look at this. Virus lands on the cell, okay? And what happens here? There are particles in your body, in the cytoplasm, right? This area here between the outer cell wall and the inner cell wall is known as the cytoplasm. And what happens right here is that when the virus lands, these little green particles are known as IRF3, a protein, interferon regulatory factors, okay? Share this again, sorry about that. So these are known as interferon regulatory factors, okay? So virus comes in, these green things are IRF3, and the virus interacts right here. So this is very important. We'll get more into detail tomorrow, but when the virus comes in, it tries to knock out this process. But if everything goes well and you have, like, let's say the right chemicals, the right nutrition, the right circumstances, your body will interact, the virus will interact with IRF3. It's called the process called phosphorylation. And this complex traverses the nuclear membrane. So the phosphorylated, which means, just keep it simple, the green is IRF3. It connects with this phosphate group, and it's inspired by this virus, and it goes into the nucleus. So here now we're in the nucleus. So this IRF3 complex, you see the little green right here, this little green guy right here. If you guys can see it, I can zoom it here for people on Instagram. This piece right here forces your, right here, the process where the interferon beta gene, right here, that's what IFN beta gene is, which is a gene right there, to upregulate interferon beta. Interferon beta is a protein, okay? So what happens is the virus comes in, your body says, shoot, we got a virus. I'm going to phosphorylate this protein, which is just hanging around. So you need IRF3s, and this travels into the nucleus. And it tells your DNA, that's what this little red arrow is, make interferon beta gene. Give me the interferon beta gene, and your body, through transcription, makes interferon beta. Okay, so that's the first process. Right here, virus comes in, it's called the early phase, and your body makes interferon beta. That's what you need. If you don't have interferon beta coming out, which is right up here, you're screwed, okay? So the first step here is the virus lands, and the interferon system, so the virus lands on the surface, it goes through its process, and the body it sends a signal to your DNA, and the DNA says, I need to make some interferon beta, okay? Now that occurs within about 20 to 30 minutes. So it's fascinating. You get a cold, someone sneezes on you, go to the gym, you worked out, you didn't clean your hands right, and you feel a little, 20 to 30 minutes, you feel something coming on. That's that interferon beta kicking in, okay? That's when the interferon beta is happening. This is why it's very important, as I'll talk about tomorrow, that right when you feel something coming on, if you get intuitive with your body, you take certain nutrients like garlic. We'll talk about like NAC. These nutrients support the interferon system, because what the virus is trying to do, is you'll learn, I'll go into it more tomorrow, the virus is attempting to knock down the creation of interferon. And that's what we found out with people who are weakened immune systems. The virus is able to do that. Okay, but the first step is a virus creates interferon beta. Everyone cool? Good. All right. So the virus creates interferon beta. Let's go back to our diagram. Okay. So the virus, I'm going to make it bigger for people at home and bigger here. So the virus creates interferon beta. Now look what happens. So interferon beta is created, and that goes outside of the cell. So remember, you could have two cells here. You could have cell 1, which got infected. Cell 1 is just putting out interferon beta if it's healthy. So if you got a healthy immune system, your body's putting out interferon beta, warning all the other cells, hey, I've been infected. I've been infected, get ready. Get ready, because I've been infected. So the first phase, interferon beta is going out, lots of interferon beta. That interferon beta may land on the same cell, but it may land on a neighboring cell, okay? So what happens then? Let's follow that through. Step 2. All right, let's go to step 2. Step 2 here, interferon goes and lands on this thing called IFNAR. IFNAR is that catcher's mitt. So imagine this is a baseball glove. This lands on a receptor on this cell or another cell, because the purpose of interferon beta is to warn other cells, hey, you're being infected. So what happens here? This IFNAR, when it lands on here through a series of chemical reactions, that's what this little purple here is for people on Instagram. Make it easy for you guys to follow here. So it lands over here, and ISGF3 is a molecule, okay, that right here, this purple, orange, and yellow intersect. So there's a whole bunch of chemical reactions. I'm not going to go through the details of that, but this traverses a nucleus. Again, here's the nucleus. And guess what it does? It tells your DNA, make me some IRF7. That's right here. The IRF gene gets turned on right here, if everyone can see it, right here. And so IRF7 is created. And that's what these little bluish, purplish things are. And that leaves the cytoplasm, okay? So you have a bunch of IRF7, interferon regulatory factor 7, that's get created. So why is that important? Okay, why is that important? So in phase 2, so if you have a healthy immune system, your body is putting out these interferon betas, and those interferon betas are going all to your other cells that haven't been infected. When interferon beta lands on that cell, or even on the cell that got infected, that cell starts making IRF7. Remember, the second cell, which never got infected, doesn't have a virus, but it starts creating IRF7. So look, first cell gets infected, all the other neighboring cells, if they get interferon beta properly, they start making IRF7, okay? Very important. So again, if your immune system's working right, your body makes cell 1 got infected, poor cell, all the other millions of other cells in your body, they're getting hit with interferon beta, not the virus yet, right? The virus is just starting its replication process. So interferon beta hits all these other cells, and your body starts making this interferon regulatory factor called 7. Quite amazing, okay? That's the second process. So why is this important? Why is this important? Because the goal is what? The reason you get sick is if the population of viruses gets more and more and more. The goal is right when you get infected, you want to knock it down. You got a strong immune system, it knocks it down. You take vitamin D3, it knocks it down. You have other nutrients, your body knocks it down, okay? But if your body doesn't produce that interferon beta, you don't signal your other cells. It's like a thief. You don't have an alarm system. So the interferon beta is like your alarm system. Interferon beta is putting out sirens. All the other cells, oh my God, we're being infected. They start making IRF7, interferon regulatory factor 7. So now in the healthy case, all your other cells are now juiced up. They're waiting. They said, okay, they brought the military in. You know, my first neighbor here got infected in the neighborhood. We're all ready. We have our, machine guns. We have our weapons. We're ready for that virus. So what happens there? Okay, so what happens here? Let's look carefully. At this point, what happens here is that, so now you're looking at the cell. Forget all this part here. You have a cell that has got a lot of IRF7. These are the ones that are ready. They've been inoculated, okay, in some sense. Right? This is your own internal vaccine system. Think about what I'm saying here. Think about what I'm sharing with you here. The interferon system vaccinates all these other cells. So they're primed. Okay? So think about what happens if you have a strong interferon system. Your body starts, quote unquote, vaccinating the other cells. You won't get this from Fauci, by the way. Okay? So right here, so IRF7 is everywhere in the cytoplasm. So now we're looking at another cell, and now the virus lands on this new cell. Virus lands on this new cell, and guess what? This cell's got machine guns. It's got the military. It's got Navy SEALs. It's got everyone ready, right? Virus lands, and guess what happens? The interferon 7 phosphorylates. Just trust me, this is a chemical reaction, and this phosphorylated version is able to traverse the nucleus, or here's a nucleus, and guess what happens? Look what happens now. Not only are you creating interferon beta again, right here, it goes here, creates beta, but it also creates more alpha. So these beta go exponentially, go tell more cells, hey, I'm being infected. So 1,000 cells had IRF7, virus sits there, they go tell 1,000 more cells. So you got more sirens go off, more military are called, okay? That's what beta does. And alpha is used to go knock out that virus, okay? Now, the other piece I want to show you very quickly, it's a little bit hard to see. I'll do this diagram, that there's another gene here called SOCS, okay? SOX1, which is used to stop this process because you don't want more and more of this being created. Otherwise, you're going to have the cytokine storm. So there is another protein right here in the fourth step, that stops the production of interferon alpha and beta, right? So what I'm sharing with you here is two processes. So you have the other cells which are ready with the military IRF7, thanks to interferon beta. When the virus lands on those cells, unlike the first cell who wasn't ready, these other cells are ready. And because of that, it generates more interferon beta to warn more and more cells. So you have an exponential warning effect, and it generates interferon alpha, which goes and knocks out that virus. But you can't have this go on too long, right? You can't have a inflammatory process because these are cytokines. So you got to knock it off. So that's why you have the SOCS1, which is another protein which says, okay, we have enough. We've knocked out the virus. Let me turn this off. Let me turn the spigot off. If we don't turn the spigot off, guess what? You have inflammatory response. You have inflammation, which is what the cytokine storm is. All right. Let me see how everyone's doing. Everyone get that? Everyone cool? All right. Someone said, if Kerry Moss alive, I bet he and Dr.SHIVA may change the course of history. People nowadays are misunderstood about yes, Kerry was an amazing human being. Just like me, he was exposing Fauci. So what I've shared with you here is an amazing process. The interferon system wakes up when a virus comes, one cell, but it warns all the other cells. It inoculates the other cells through interferon beta, so they get IRF7. And when that cell gets hit, you smash the virus out, okay? Now, what I did for my PhD work is I actually studied this system and using the technology CytoSolve, which is the technology I created, which we're using, by the way, to identify all different kinds of nutraceutical products. We have, by the way, after 15 years, we've discovered a new nutraceutical product where it's two ingredients when we combine them, and we've run billions of calculations without killing animals that has an amazing, profound effect on lowering pain and inflammation. It's going to be the first product that we've developed bottoms up, so keep an eye on it. But it comes from CytoSolve without any animal testing. But anyway, CytoSolve is what I use to look at all these processes, all the chemical reactions, and guess what I did? I actually mathematically modeled it, and I'm going to share that with you so you can see the results. So remember, interferon beta comes within 20 to 30 minutes, right when you get hit with the virus. Interferon alpha comes hours later. But there is this period within the first 24 hours when your interferon system's on, that if you support it with the right nutrients, which we'll talk about beyond vaccines, right, that your body will support this very powerful missing link. So let's go back to the charts here. So what I did here was, with CytoSolve, there's the interferon receptor signaling, as you can see here. Let me go back here so you guys can follow it here. Go here over a little bit. Okay. So we have the interferon receptor signaling. We have, which is the first piece. We have the virus infection over here is the first piece. You have the interferon receptor signaling. You have the next part, the amplification cycle, which is alpha and beta, and you have the regulation. So I took all these processes, and I literally, for my PhD work, I literally found every molecular reaction, which is the interferon receptor, virus infection with the virus lands. This is the receptor signaling. This is the amplification cycle and the regulation. And I literally mathematically modeled it, okay? So what you see here is the blue line here, the purple line right here is how much interferon beta is first produced. After interferon beta comes, this is the timeline in seconds. Then you get, in the blue line, you get interferon alpha. So let's look at it closely. So you notice right here, which is, so within about 30,000 seconds, which is 8.3 hours, which is right here, that's when interferon alpha is created. But before this, within 30 to 40 minutes, you have the creation of interferon beta right here, right? So first interferon beta kicks in, and then you have interferon alpha. So I've actually mathematically modeled this with cytosolve. So we put all those thousands of chemical equations together, and for the first time, this was my PhD work, we actually showed how interferon beta comes within 30 to 40 minutes, which has been shown clinically. And then we showed how after that, about 8.3 hours later, interferon alpha comes. Alpha comes. So beta comes first, and then alpha comes. And you can see that here. It's quite cool. It's very cool. So you see here is right here, you see that interferon beta comes right here, and then alpha comes, okay? And then what I did was, and by the way, it takes about 8.3 hours, right here. You can see it takes about 14 hours, which is right about here, for it to hit a steady state value, which means it comes to a stable value, right? But right here, if you zoom in here, right over here, this curve here shows that this is right about 30 to 40 minutes, interferon beta comes, and about 8.3 hours later, right here is when alpha kicks in. So it takes about 8 hours for alpha to kick in, which is alpha is the one that starts taking out the viruses, okay? This is why you may get an initial sniffle, some headache, right? You're working through this process. That's what's occurring to this process when you first feel something coming on. What I did was to prove my model was right, I literally went and got clinical data. So this is clinical data from Takuji and Cooley. And what you see is this is what's predicted literally in about 14 hours is when you start, 14 to 24 hours, you start hitting steady state. And that's what my model predicts right here. So we showed that my mathematical model matches clinical data, okay, which is right here. So the questions that come up is vaccines in the IFN system. Do vaccines bypass and short circuit the interferon system? That's one of the questions that you want to ask your doctor. Are vaccines short circuiting the interferon system? Does upregulation, of these kinds of proteins by vaccine, we know that vaccines can upregulate these cause autoimmune disorders. And do we know the risk of bypassing the interferon system? And is there a risk matrix for vaccines? What really we find out is that immunology affects all these subsystems. So when you start looking at the immune system, it's not just only the immune system, it's all these different systems. And this came out in a recent work in 2018 in Nature. I published in Nature Neuroscience, one of the leading journals in the world. And what this guy says is a case in point is a main immunological metrics used in medicine are white blood cells and the complete blood cell count. The former was developed in 1915 and the latter 1959. It's time for an upgrade. So if you look in the worst case, we're about over 100 years old on just the old model of the immune system. And the concept of using the complete blood cell count was 1959, which is about 60, 70 years ago. The point is that we are at a point in evolution of science that the entire model of the immune system is just based on a very reductionist model. I'm going to go stick this vaccine in, and if you get antibodies, you're great. That's what the mRNA vaccine's about. But what I just shared with you is when the innate system's turned on, the interferon system gets turned on, all these other processes take place, and no one talks about the interferon system. So when you get the mRNA vaccine, you just bypass the interferon system, haven't you? And this is one of the important areas of research, because if we don't turn on the interferon system, all these other wonderful orchestra processes are not being turned on. So in summary, what I wanted to convey to you today is that when you take a systems approach, which is what we just did today, you find out it's not just the innate, it's not just the adaptive, it's the interconnection. And the interferon system is a missing link between both. A virus comes in, your body turns on within 30 to 40 minutes, interferon beta, which is like a siren. It warns all the other cells. And then the interferon beta landing on them, it's like Paul Revere. Interferon beta is literally like Paul Revere, going out and telling all the other cells, get ready. Those cells start organizing their local military, okay? That's IRF7. So when the virus comes to that cell, it not only hits them with interferon beta, but it hits them with interferon beta and alpha. And then if you have the right regulatory factors, it knows to shut it off so you don't have the cytokine storm. So tomorrow, what I'm going to talk about is what are the nutrients you can take to boost up your interferon system. If the interferon system, like I mentioned, sits right between all of these subsystems, does it not make sense that to build immunity, we should support the interferon system? So that's why we need to take a systems approach. And that's why when you take this interconnected approach, you're going to start really appreciating not only the body as a system, but all things as a system. This is not left or right. This is not about turn on the adaptive and forget the innate. This is about understanding the interconnections. And that's why you must become, if you're serious, you don't have to. What I want to do is the formula and the goal here is we need to educate people on a systems approach, be it this or understanding digital rights or how we're going to get back science and how we're going to fight for our rights locally. So the only way out of this is you must get a systems education. You don't have to go to, how many ever years I did at MIT. In 3 hours, every Monday nights, tomorrow evening, we're taking a new student. So please go to BEshiva.com. Let me share this with you. And I know we have a lot of our warriors online. So all of you guys who are listening, please, comment on people, let them know how to go to BEshiva.com/join as I'm doing this, because I only got one, it's just me here doing this. So if everyone goes to BEshiva.com/join, I'm sure everyone can see this here. So if everyone goes to BEshiva.com/join, please take time right now. What you'll see is we're very transparent here. We are building the infrastructure. We are building the infrastructure. And when I mean infrastructure, the digital infrastructure, the hardware infrastructure, the educational infrastructure for you, for us to win. And remember, $1 we contribute, we invest in infrastructure, whether it be our highways or invest in ourselves, we get a 10x return. That's what science shows. You give free stuff away, you lose 40 cents. But if you invest in infrastructure, you get a 10x return. So what we're showing here is, I want you guys, either you do it today, but contribute to our infrastructure if you want. You can contribute through telling others, you can contribute through money. And when you contribute, I want to give you back something. So if you contribute, you can become a warrior. Those people are contributing about $100, which is nothing relative to the knowledge I'm going to share you get. I give you back knowledge because I don't feel ever taking something for nothing. Those of you who give $20, you can get the book, the textbook, and you get access to Your Body, Your System. I'll walk you through that. Or you can just join as a member for free, get access to what I'm going to share with you shortly, okay? Those of you who want to become a warrior, you can also go to BEshiva.com if you want to know more, and just go /warrior, okay? Warrior, right here. And you'll see what you get as a warrior. It's quite, I believe, I always like to give more than less. Make people say you give way too much in terms of knowledge, but here it is for you. You get, first of all, access to the entire course tomorrow evening from 7 to 10. It's a live interaction with me. But then you also get online, you get access to a portal where you can take all the 5 courses, but then you get also access to another portal where you can understand how the forces of systems thinking, transport, conversion, storage, you can use that to understand your own body as a system. I give you a tool that it took me 20 years to build, where you ask a set of questions to yourself and you figure out what kind of system you are. And then you figure out what kind of, where your situation is today. That's what the black dot is. So the red dot is in this triangle, who you are. Everyone is different. And the black dot tells you, have you not got enough sleep? Are you compromised in some way? And then you can figure out, the system will calculate for you, not for me, but for you, based on your needs, the foods, the supplements, what's right for you. It's an educational tool for you to see these concepts, okay? So you must check this out, because this will help you understand. And then, by the way, you get the textbook, ebook, System and Revolution. I think about 100,000 people have read this now. This, I guess, will be considered a bestseller. You get Your Body, Your System. You get Your System, Your Life. You get access to the theoretical science paper, and then you get access to 2 more very powerful science papers here, okay? So on turmeric and ginger and cytosol. So that's what you get here. What I'm going to do now is that once you log in to the system, once you've signed up, whether as a member, as a supporter, or a warrior, you actually get access to a dashboard. And what is that dashboard for? Well, first of all, you can get all the educational content, educate. Then you get to build community with others, communicate, which means this is in our data center. This is in our world. We're not going to get kicked off by Twitter, not by Facebook, not by these guys. It's our community. So you can communicate with a truth, freedom, and health warrior in Nebraska, or someone in California, or someone in France. Okay, you find that you're not alone. That other people also want to get politically conscious, educationally conscious. So we have those tools. So if you go into the tool here, let me go right in. If you go into I'm going to log in right now. So if you log in, I have my login already. Once you sign up, you get your login. And by the way, let me go here. So you log in as I always use John's password. Okay, so let me log in here. And what we have here is you now get access to, I'm logged in at the highest level as a leader, but if you log in as a member, you get access to these featured videos. Well, the featured videos are videos that we know that YouTube cannot take down. So for example, there's a whole video series on vitamin C. This video got taken down from YouTube. It's about vitamin D, how big pharma loves to depress your immune system. So you can go look at those content that's sitting there for you. Okay. You can then go back to the dashboard, and then you can get also, for those of you who sign up at the supporter level, you get access to a whole set of premium videos. And I think you'll like this, because these premium videos are videos where we've run different ingredients through Cytosolve. So there's a whole set of videos on how black cumin has antiviral, anti-inflammatory properties, or the many faces of ginger, or cinnamon to boost immunity. And there's more and more videos here on garlic, okay? And we'll talk about this more relative to the interferon system tomorrow. So again, that's another thing that you can take advantage of, is to really get access to the premium videos. Separate from that, that's the educational piece. And by the way, the educational piece doesn't end there. Beyond these basic videos, you also get access to the actual tool, Your Body, Your System. Once you sign in, you have to sign in first. And this is a tool that you can use to answer a set of questions. Who am I? You answer a set of questions, and it figures out, who you are, and lets you figure out your red dot. Then it figures out where am I today? That's this black dot. You answer another set of questions, and then it gives you your personalized program and what's right for you, what you should have in the morning, afternoon, what supplements are good. In fact, it'll make your shopping list for you. Okay. So you should have fun with that. All right. Let me make sure everyone can see this. I think what I want to do is stop the screen. I'm going to just share. The screen I want to share I'm going to share the whole screen, because otherwise you're not seeing all of this. Okay. So let me go here. So in Your Body, Your System, you get access to the tool, which really helps you understand how your body is a system. So take advantage of that. Okay. The next thing, you get access to all the courses online. So when you go online, you can, independent of listening to me on Monday evenings, which I recommend you do, you can get access to the portal. You get literally to go into your course. In this case, you purchase the Foundations of Systems course, and you literally can watch the videos. You can enter. And by the way, there's an exam. I want you guys, if you're serious about getting to the leadership program, you take this and you actually take an exam, and you get 2 times to pass the exam. Then you actually get a certificate. Okay. You actually get a system self certificate. Those of you who log in as a warrior can also get the videos right here, which is this is one version of the videos that I'll do on Monday evening. So you get Foundations of Systems. You learn what's a system, truth, freedom, and health, bottoms up movement, and the not so obvious establishment. Okay. So we do that. And then finally, the other piece I want to share with you is that we have these amazing communication tools, because without communication, you'll feel like you're alone, sitting wherever you are. So we've created these by the way, there's 4 different ebooks. As I mentioned, there's a scientific paper, but the communication tools are the forum. We have a number of truth, freedom, and health warriors who are helping us now start to manage that. But you can see, for example, this is a forum on health, and you can also access these with your iPhone or your Android, whatever phone you have. But the health, you can see there's more and more people joining. There's a pretty lively conversation, about 80 people here on school shutdowns and mental health. So you can join that conversation. Again, you can meet a lot of really great people here. These are people all over the world, all over the country. Okay. So you won't feel alone. In the dashboard is also, for warriors, we've created our own version of Facebook. Okay. Where you can join in. I always use John's account. So you can go in, There's different groups here. We have the warrior group and the leader group. So you can join one of these groups and you can become a member in one of these groups, a warrior group. It's just been launched. So you can go set up your own account, okay? On this, it's a lot like Facebook, but you won't get shut down, okay? So I wanted to share that with you because we're building a movement. We don't care about politicians because we know elections are selections, okay? We have to go local. And part of this is, the other piece I forgot to mention is, we also have the fact that you can activate yourself, right? We don't want you to just sit around and just think you should be on this tool all day. But what you can do here, let me go here, that you can also, there's actually the cards are supposed to go up today. There's 3 more cards going up, but you can literally take this card and you can print it out at your local Staples or your local printer. For example, this is on masks. So how do you convince others what Dr. Shiva is saying is valuable? Well, this is like your cheat sheet. The front of it is about building awareness of masks. And the back of it, if you go here, is the back of the card, which literally lets you understand how you can, what you can share with people, how masks affect the oral microbiome. It gives people quick sign. You can give this to a local Starbucks person or a local store. If everyone's wearing masks, you say, hey, look, you know, these masks are going to affect your dental health and your oral health is everything. And here are the public health implications. Now, why am I giving what the goal is here is you can now be an activist on the ground. You can take the science, you can go on the ground, print these cards out on your own and share this with people. So we don't need to fight. The 60% of people who are ready to be convinced, you can say, hey, look, why don't you read this card here from Dr. Shiva's an MIT PhD? You'll understand you wear that mask all day. You're increasing the temperature around this area. You're lowering your pH. You're going to destroy some very critical bacteria and you're going to increase non-beneficial bacteria. And that's going to cause periodontal disease. That's going to cause tooth decay. And that's why doctors are noticing this increase. And maybe you, Starbucks worker, maybe want to go to your employer and say, hey, I need more dental health care. Because if you're going to wear these masks, if you're going to make me wear these masks, that's what I need. So what we're doing is we're going to working people and saying, look, don't blindly wear these masks. You can, but know that what your employer is doing can affect you, okay? You can also give this to parents. You know, and kids are being forced to wear these masks. These masks are particularly harmful when kids' microbiome, their mouth bacteria is developing. Why is this important? You have about 700 key microbacteria that we've worked in our research over the last 3 years to identify. Those bacteria are important to balancing your immune system, your innate immune system, which affects not only your oral health, affects your cardiovascular health, your mental health, your bone health. The mouth is a gateway. So you can, simple card. We don't need to fight with people. We educate. We educate and we ignite them. That's what we do. So go to vashiva.com/join, support as a member. You know, it's nothing. You support, you start contributing. You know, we give you more and more education because it shows that you're committed to advancing yourself. So again, our team, we're very grateful to all of you. Our team is working very hard to boost up our infrastructure, hardware, software. We're building this. It's all being done by us meaning together to win truth, freedom, and health. We need to educate, we need to communicate, and we need to activate ourselves. Bottoms up movement, interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. And we have to be aware of the not so obvious establishment because there are real enemies, the people who actually make it pro versus anti, left versus right, Republican versus Democrat. Please, if you want to play in that sandbox, it's sort of being a kindergartner. We need to educate people up at the PhD level politically, and that's what this is about. It may not be for everyone, but for those of you who really want to change the world and stop whining, yeah, all these conspiracies are going on, who cares? Let's build our bottoms up movement. That's how we win. Let me see if there's any questions. Ken Fielding has it. What did Ken Fielding say here? Ken Fielding's one of our warriors. Ken says, hi, Natalie. We just had this discussion with Dr. Shiva. He's working, changing up the time so more people can get educated. Yes, we're working on that so that you can stay in the loop. Yep, definitely. Brandon Harsh is a great veteran. Brandon works very hard. He's a veteran in the National Guard. Brandon says, I would love to see the dental data on the healthcare workers now after wearing masks nonstop. Brandon, if they're forcing you to wear masks, you should make sure the military and et cetera, you should go say, I want more teeth cleanings. I want proper support for my mouth. And by the way, we're working on, with Cytosolve, a very powerful set of ingredients that you can take to support your mouth microbiome. So anyway, Cytosolve is, I've been helping a lot of other companies, but we're going to start helping ourselves. We're going to start building products and tools that we in our Truth Freedom Warrior movement can take. Big Pharma can do whatever the hell they want, but we're going to start taking care of our warriors' health by using Cytosolve to create amazing products that are based on real science. So keep an eye out for that. That's coming soon. Someone says hi from Missouri. What's Germinal Center? I'm not sure what that is. One of the things I want you to do is, by the way, a lot of you have been sending me ideas for talks. One of you wanted the interferon talk. That's what I'm going to do today. Tomorrow, I'm going to share with you what are the nutrients that support the interferon system. So it's going to be very practical. But please share this knowledge with your friends that there is something just beyond the adaptive immune system. There is this thing called the interferon system. Let's see what we got here on Instagram. Anyone on Instagram? Any questions here? Let me zoom out here a little bit so you guys can see everything. Any stuff on Instagram from people? Okay. All right. So if there isn't anything, let me. If you're continuing to wear masks, what's the point of a vaccine if you're still going to have to wear it? Good question. Here's a question. Is there any clinical data on the vaccine's effect on the interferon system? Look, this is who was that? Lizzie, you're asking a very fundamental question. The question you just asked is what you should, now you're armed, that you're becoming a truth, freedom, and health warrior, Lizzie, because with this knowledge, now remember, the questions we ask are more important than the answers. Some people ask really, really useless questions. The question that Lizzie asked is what we should ask. Hey, how does the vaccines affect the interferon system? Because I know that's got to be turned on. All right, great question. Tina says, thank you, Dr. Shiva, for always sharing a wealth of information and caring. Yep. Look, I've spent my whole life wanting to really crack the code since I grew up as a kid, watching my grandmother do this, going through MIT, but I cannot separate my fight for truth with my fight for freedom, with my fight for health. They're all interconnected. And that's what we're doing here. You can't just be the 1A, 2A person. You can't just be the person who's a yoga person about your health. And you can't just be a nerd who's into innovation and science. We got to bring them all together, because without freedom, without the First Amendment, Second Amendment, we can't fight for truth. And without truth, we can't do science to get to the real problems and the real solutions, which helps our health. And without health, we can't fight for freedom. These are all intimately connected. That's why we got to get up to 50,000 truth, freedom, and health warriors, because we get to that number, we'll create a reaction, bottoms up. Bottoms up, guys. That's what this is about. So become a truth, freedom, and health warrior. Support this movement because it's for you and your family, and we got to go local. This is something you can do locally. Keep an eye out. We've been a little bit delayed. There's a card coming out on vaccines. It says Beyond Vax, Anti-Vax, and you can give that to people. There's one right after coming on election integrity and one on lockdowns. And each one of those cards has knowledge, because this says vashiva.com/masks. There's one on vashiva.com/lockdown. So you can use these cards to give someone and say, look, go to vashiva.com/masks, get the research. That's how we're building the bottoms up movement. Anyway, thank you, everyone. It's 10:09 p.m. Those of you, I'll see you tomorrow. We're doing our Truth, Freedom, and Health Warrior School tomorrow. And every Thursdays, by the way, we have a summit. And those of you who are Truth, Freedom, Health Warriors, and you want to become leaders, because my goal is to have about a leader in every state and leaders in every city. And that's what we want to build to. Bottoms up, bottoms up, bottoms up. Please do not waste your time on these freaking politicians. You're getting into WWF wrestling. They are not going to do anything. And that's what we've been involved in for the last 4 years, or for that matter, forever. This movement is the real alternative that's going to get us to truth, freedom, and health, because it's founded in engineering science, and it's based on you. It's based on us building a bottoms-up movement. It's based on us relying on ourselves. It's the only way out. Okay? It's not pro-Trump, anti-Trump. It's not pro-Republican, anti-Republican. It's not pro-Democrat, anti-Democrat. This is about pro-working people, bottoms-up. All right, everyone. Let me play, like I like to do, our closing video. And please share this, everyone, and have a good evening. Let me start this up again. Let's start it. And have a good evening, everyone. Tomorrow we'll actually be doing a call-in. Thank you. Country to be taken over from within. We have allowed our country to be taken over from within, and the end goal is you will have a homogenized world where we will become slaves, because there is a condition among the elites that really thinks they're better than you, deep down inside them, that you don't deserve the freedoms you have. They don't. This reality is what people need to wake up to, and we need to all unite working people. There's only one movement that can do that, and that is the movement that we started creating here in Massachusetts, the movement for truth, freedom, and health. Look, I've been a student of politics since I was a 4-year-old kid, studying revolutionary movements, left wing, right wing. There's a physics, there's a nuclear science to destroying the establishment. To build a bridge, you need to understand Newton's equation. You need to understand the laws of gravity. You need to understand Poisson's ratio. There is a way to build a revolution, and that's why I put this together. My goal is to train an army of truth, freedom, and health leaders. We don't need followers like social media. We need leaders, but they need training, because the educational system does not teach them history, nothing. So in 3 hours, that's what I've started doing. That's the solution. We got to train people. First, with understanding what a system is. The second is understanding the interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. Freedom is the ability to move freely, communicate freely, right? Talk freely. Without freedom, you cannot convert ideas, hypothesis into truth, which is science. And without freedom, you can't really get to truth. And without truth, you make up fake problems and fake solutions, which means you destroy our health. And without health, which is the infrastructure of us and our body, you can't fight for freedom. Third concept is it has to be bottoms up, working people, people who work uniting. And what the right wing has done is whenever you say working people unite, that must be communist. Meanwhile, they've let the Democrats run unions, which suppress workers, completely corrupt. But when you look at the arc of American history, it's been when working people came up. We need to go local. Every solution I'm coming up with as a part of this movement, we're giving the science, which is the truth, and then we tell people what they can do on the ground. Like with election fraud, you don't need to wait for some lawyer. Our goal is to train people, Dave, to go local, to go local, to go local, fight locally. Forget lawyers, forget politicians, forget celebrities. You got to learn politics, and there is a science to it. They lock us down, we should be ready to shut them down. And the fourth part of this principle is a not so obvious establishment. So when you look at a system, there's always something that disturbs you from getting to your goal. Well, the biggest disturbance is a not so obvious establishment, which are those people who claim they're for you, on the left and the right. The Al Sharptons who tell black people I'm for you. The Tucker Carlsons. Do you think any true anti-establishment person will ever be on Fox or CNN? I don't think so. They both mislead working people back into the establishment. Without this solid understanding of political physics and theory, you're screwed. You're going to follow on the left wing, Bernie Sanders. Oh, he said something. Or Robert Kennedy. Scumbags. Or you're going to follow, some right-wing talk show host. They're not going to lead us to liberation. It's us. And that political physics, it's a nuclear science of change. Bottoms up. We have to organize to understand that there is people who talk a good game and then look at what they actually do, left and right. I'm sorry, Sean Hannity may say some good things, but I don't see the urgency in his voice to get something done, and it can only come when you weaponize yourself with the right knowledge. You need to be able to identify a rat. Christ didn't go after the Romans, right? It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who screwed him up. His own quote-unquote people. And that's where we're at. So these four concepts I've built into a curriculum. People can go to BASHIVA.com, and it's an educational program. We need to train people in political theory. You need to have physics, and I've created that curriculum. People need to get educated. We need to get educated fast. And within a half an hour, I can teach people. 2 years of MIT control systems, I teach people those concepts. Then I apply it, anyone can understand it. And then you say, oh, I got to build a bottoms-up movement. They have to get politically astute, and then they have to go locally and act, not sit there on social media. They have to act locally, defy locally, do civil obedience locally, but with knowledge on how to build a movement. The Senate campaign's expanded to the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health, and they can find it on V as in Victor, A, Shiva, VASHIVA.com, so people can sign in. They can get access to a bunch of videos. If they want to take a course and become a Truth, Freedom, Health leader, I offer a full scholarship there. But we want people to make a commitment that they'll study, that they'll get certified, that they'll go do activities on the ground. So go to BE Shiva, Victory America Shiva, vashiva.com. All right, everyone. I hope you have a good evening, and I'll see those of you on tomorrow. But we'll also be doing a video too. I'll try to do videos a little bit earlier on because I have a 7 p.m. course. But please join us. It's time that we build a movement. It's time that we get what we deserve, and we get smart, and we stop following fools, because life is too short, and it's time that we build a movement that's really founded on principles that allows everyone to participate, not just a few, not just people born with a birth lottery, right? That's what we have today. We have a political system that you're born into a family and then you get to participate. That's not what freedom is. We're building our own movement on our own terms, founded on real science, founded on truth, freedom, and health. So thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Be the light, be well. Let's win this fight. Thank you.